Undying is strong, like really, really strong. If you want to absolutely dumpster your lanes right now, pick Undying. It's the third most popular hero at the pro pub level for position 5, and there is a good reason for that. Right now, even with level 1 decay, he does a lot in lane. Even though the meta has shifted around a bit around him, like before we could go decay, he is still incredibly strong, although he's not quite as broken. So let's get into how immortals play Undying. So what I did was that I looked at the 10 most impactful Undying position 5 games in the pro pubs and just analyzed them a bit and condensed the information for you guys. So starting items, it's actually pretty simple. Like a lot of other heroes have complex starting items or different starting item builds, but with Undying that's not really the case. Okay, so the build that you want to go with Undying right now is getting one pair of tangos, one sentry, a mango, another mango I guess, and another mango, and another mango, and another mango, and I think another mango. And then you can go a branch or maybe another mango. I wish I was joking, but this is actually the most popular build right now with Undying. Just getting a tango, a ward, and then a shit ton of mangoes. And although this looks incredibly stupid on pretty much any other hero, it is very good on Undying, honestly. Like a lot of these things that are popular in Immortal pubs, like the no regen starting builds on certain heroes, it just doesn't work out, at least not for me. But this build with the shit ton of mangoes is actually pretty easy to play. The thing is, with the mangoes you get a bit of regen, the health regen, and most importantly, you get mana for a very, very long time. Like, you'd be surprised how long 7 mangoes will last you for. Okay, maybe it's not that surprising that 7 mangoes last you a long time, but it is actually really, really useful, genuinely. And you might think, hey, why not just go a Ring of Basilius, for example, or some mana regen items. The thing is, in the first 5 minutes, that's where you want your mana. You don't want mana late game, mid game, you're gonna sort that shit out yourself. But the most important point where the pros really, really go for mana is in the first 5 minutes. So if you start out with 7 mangoes and then ship out a couple of, I don't know, more mangoes and maybe a clarity, then you're just set for the entire laning phase. Of course, this is going to absolutely ruin your net worth, I want to make that very clear. But you are playing position 5, your net worth is important, but I mean, it's not the end of the world if you secure a guaranteed amazing lane for your hard carry by sacrificing some of your own farm. So what items do the Undyings go next? Well, boots. Every single top level Undying right now, okay, with the exception of like 1 out of 20, go boots first item. And again, it's not a lot of heroes where it's this obvious what item to get, but Undying is one of those rare cases. After you've gotten your boots, you have a choice. Either you go wand or you go arcane boots. Now, the most popular option is getting a wand, and you might be thinking, wait, isn't arcane boots really good on Undying? Well, yes, they are incredibly good, but the thing is, if you're not having an absolutely fucking fantastic lane, you're not gonna get them before 10 minutes. And at that point, you don't really need the mana as much anymore. Of course, it's still a good item, all the pros go for it at some point almost, but getting a wand early is just better in most games, and the stats help you a lot more than some mana 5 minutes later. You remember, you really want to push this advantage at, I don't know, 5 to 7 minutes, and arcane boots don't really help with that. If you decide to go for arcane boots instead of wand, you need to get wand immediately after. Every single top Undying that I watched did this. It's basically a must. It's basically a must to get arcane boots and wand. The only option you have is whether you want to swap the order or not. There were some exceptions, 3, where the Undying went for a Force Staff. There was one case where an Undying went for 4 staff before Wand and before Arcane Boots, but I think this was some kinda experimental game, if I'm gonna be honest, because it's really an outlier compared to the rest. Getting a 4 staff doesn't seem to be a bad option, not by any means, but if you go for a 4 staff or feel like this is a game where I really need an early 4 staff, like against Skywrath or Riki, then you don't go for Arcane Boots. You kind of have to sacrifice Arcane Boots to get the 4 staff. The games where the pros went for 4 staff, they usually got Tranquil Boots a bit before that. So they just swap out Arcane Boots with Tranquil Boots in the build. The rest of the build after you've gotten your boots, Arcane Boots and Wand is really mixed, which makes me really happy because a lot of the time the hero builds are really perfected and really standardized, like with Rubik. But for Undying there seems to be actually some wiggle room for creativity, which is pretty nice. So the most common option to go after Arcane Boots and Wand is a Holy Locket. Now I was personally kinda shocked that people went for the Holy Locket, because his decay isn't affected at all. It does no difference, it's only strength steal, so it's no healing amplification. The only spell that gets any stronger is his W, and I don't really feel like most people focus on the W, like it's an important spell, but it's the Q and the E that matters. But this is where I noticed that the playstyles split a bit. Because while Holy Locket is a very popular option, about half of the players go for it early. And those same players really focus on using the W well. I'm gonna talk more about the skill build later, but it's very connected to the items and we'll talk about that in a bit. But just know that if you go Holy Locket, it is primarily because you wanna do a good job with your W. I see a lot of Undyings healing their teammates, both with the W Soul Rip, but also the Holy Locket itself. Focus on doing that, focus on keeping your team alive. But to be honest, that's not the playstyle I'm the most interested in. If you wanna go a less healing and less supportive playstyle, you are free to build pretty much whatever you want. Getting a Glimmer or a mech or again 4 staff, drums, you can build pretty much anything you want that you feel suits the game. And this is kinda scary in my opinion, because it's a lot of free choice and it matters a lot. Unlike heroes like Rubik, where the players go pretty much the same items every game, they have their personal playstyle and they stick to that. The Undying players seem to mix it up a lot, even the same players. So from that we can kinda assume that it matters a lot and you can't really go the same item build every single game. It's important to be adaptable and flexible when you play a more non-Holy Locket Undying. So the match I'm personally going to focus on is a match played by Dubu, so let's get into it. So my plan was that we're just gonna look a bit at how Dubu plays the lane and see how he stomps his games, because he does really truly stomp this game. So one thing that I've noticed and that I've been trying to implement in my own game is that he really tries to focus for those double decays where he hits 2 heroes. He didn't go for it right here, the earliest one, but pretty much every other time in lane, whenever he goes for decay, he really tries his best with 2 heroes. And a lot of the time he even holds his Q until he is able to hit 2 heroes. This clip right here is probably a bad example, because he sees a kill and goes for it, but if we just wait a bit, we're gonna see him try to only focus on getting the double Qs, and he hits them a lot, which kind of surprised me, because you expect the enemy to move around and try to space away from it. But I mean, if even top level immortals struggle with avoiding the double hero decay, then it's gonna work anywhere. Okay, so right here, another very interesting thing happens. It's 3 minutes into the game, he has spammed a lot of Q, he has 1 mango left. And right here, he just does something that might be commonplace in your MMR, I don't know, but for me it's very rare to see a supporter willingly just go dive the tower. I mean, I always hear pros say, oh, if you don't have any regen, just go suicide into the tower. But I don't really do it myself, and I probably should be doing it a lot more. Because what he fed right here was 150 gold, shared bounty, And what is that? That's like less than 3 mangoes, and he gets full mana. It's insanely worth it. One thing to keep in mind is that you don't get hit by any of the heroes, because if you then dive the tower, they're gonna get the extra bounty, which you don't want. You want to keep it as low as possible. So be careful, don't get hit. I don't remember the exact duration, but I think it's like 10 seconds. I'm gonna put it on the screen anyways. But just try to not get hit, and if you're out of mana, then it's fine to suicide the tower. I guess the lane was also pretty chill right here. The main focus that I want you to have here, or the main interest for me personally, is that even though he's laning with one of the worst laners early on in the game, Morphling, they still completely crush the lane. Let's take a look at the net worth right here, and you can see that Morph is completely stomping. Like a Morph is stomping a Death Prophet Snapfire lane. That is pretty insane. Like there's a huge net worth difference here at 5 minutes, and that's kind of what Undying and Dubu allows you to do. That's the reason he's so strong right now, and why so many people want to pick him. Because, yeah, he just stomps lanes pretty consistently. Okay, so another point I wanted to highlight is that even though he's trading with the enemy support, he really puts all his focus on the offlaner. That's his main target. If he wants to use the K, he's gonna try to use it on the offlaner. And you see right here, the offlaner can't go to lane. Sure, they have a pretty bad matchup against Undying, but it's still insane how the offlaner is so zoned away. Like even at just 1 minute compared to 5, there's still a net worth difference. It's not a lot, it's like 200 gold. But still, like his harass is insanely valuable, and it has a big effect on the game. When it comes to the skill build, almost everyone goes level 1 Decay, level 2 Tombstone, level 3 Soul Rip, and then they just mix it up between Tombstone, Flash Golem and Decay. Of course you want to get Flash Golem every level you can. The only real decision you have to make is if you're going to max Decay or if you're gonna max Tombstone first. But like many pros do, I'm personally going to mix and match a bit. Depending on the kill threat you feel you have in lane or when you're ganking, you might want to level up the Tombstone a couple of points extra. But the default when you don't know what to do is just to pump it into Decay. Of course, this is all assuming that you don't go for the Holy Locket build, and in that case most people put a lot more points into Soul Rip, even maxing it first after Decay. Talent wise it's kinda mixed actually. At level 10 it's about 50-50 on the games I looked. So once again, I feel like it's roughly the same question if you wanna level up the Decay or the Tombstone, if you want the cooldown reduction or the damage. It depends on how much kill threat you feel you have in lane. At level 15 it's a lot more skewed. Pretty much every game, even if they only have 1 point in Soul Rip, everyone goes for the Soul Rip talent. At level 20 again it's pretty balanced. I guess from the games I looked, if they were more stompy, people went for the DK cooldown. If they were getting stomped themselves, they went for the Tombstone on death. Pretty self-explanatory. When I look at the Immortal games, there is rarely a game where the Undying gets to level 25. Like it's 1 in 100 honestly, which is way lower than I expected, but I guess that's just support life. So honestly, if you get to this point, I don't know, pick whatever you want. I'm probably most of the time going to go for the Reincarnation cooldown, just because I feel like this late in the game, usually there's going to be a hero that can deal with the Tombstone super easily, and 6 attacks don't matter that much. But, I mean, if the enemy doesn't have any good way to deal with the Tombstone, maybe go for the left one. It's up to you. In this specific game that I'm personally the most interested in, and that I'm gonna try to emulate the most, Dubu goes for 2 points in Tombstone and then just defaults everything into Decay. Another item that I saw was very popular on Undying support is Raindrops, and I guess this is just a cheap option to get rid of some of the magic damage that can burst you down. Another thing that I think is really complex about Undying is positioning, and I feel like you can look at some teamfights and try to analyze it a lot, but in general it's like with every other support, that you want to be at the maximum range where you can still be efficient. And for Undying that means hitting on the case, and at the start of the fights placing a Tombstone on a cliff if you have the ability. Now in this specific game, Dubu goes for a Glimmer Cape and Force Staff, but I've also seen supports go for Lotus Orb and Go Scepter. They are both pretty common. So again, I feel it's just up to the draft and the game. It's very game specific. But I think with that being said, that's everything I wanted to talk about. Thanks for watching. I'll maybe see you later. Bye bye.